On today's Primetime local news, City Council receives funding in regards to construction for the Lloydminster Place. The Lloydminster Extreme are gearing up for postseason action this weekend. Plus, we discuss the positive benefits for towns taking part in the Communities in Bloom program.
Prime Time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Council granted first reading to the multi-use recreational and event facilities bylaw, which needs to be put in place before construction on Lloydminster Place can begin. The bylaw is required since the city has to borrow money for the project because there's not enough money in reserves.
For this process to be undertaken, there is a series of steps, and the first step was taken today. The first reading of a bylaw. We know how much money we're asking to borrow. It is $33 million with an upset of at the most 10%. Currently, we've been quoted approximately 5% is what we're able to borrow. A 30-year limit, but that could be less depending on what we need for money and where things are at.
Council is also looking further into possibilities of donations and grant funding, but passing this bylaw now is very important for Council.
In scenarios where we run into cost overruns, or if we can't get as much as we've planned from other levels of government, it's important that we have those funds already set in place, because the last thing we want to do is to have to start the bylaw process over again midway or near the end of a project.
Council wants people to know that the new recreational facility will be a necessary addition to the community.
Why we're building a new rink and new arena is because the Civic Center will be coming down sooner than later due to structural issues, but it is still safe to use today. But once we receive word from the engineers that we can't, we do need to have a new facility. That's led to the discussion about a new arena and a new event place.
Lakeland College received funding from Alberta Innovatives to go towards research into bison handling. Some of this research was shown off at the International Bison Convention. Our Thomas Wildman has more.
Today we have Yuri Montanholi, Wiley Square, and Walker Ballin to talk to us today about their bison research project that is being funded by Alberta Innovates that we were talking about a few weeks back. Their optimization of non-contact sensing technologies to enhance sustainability of bison farming. And so they're going to talk a little bit about us today about the new research that they've done with that project, as well as some of the stuff they learned and the competition, the poster competition they competed at the Bison International Convention that took place at Saskatoon a few weeks ago. And so thank you so much, all of you, for being with us today.
My pleasure, Thomas.
And so Yuri, tell me where this project has gone since we last spoke and a little bit more about what you guys are planning to do with it in the coming few months.
Yeah, we are working towards deploying the project. And the project two main streams, one focus on cow-calf, another one focus on feedlot bison. So we come up with some advances on the drone monitoring that enable us to be surveying the herd and learning more about the composition, if the cow had a calf or not. So there's a lot of cool stuff on that. And the other side, it is on the feedlot that we are developing a very interesting unit for sensing the animals. So was quite interesting to be at the stage of presenting this in a conference, and really rewarding to see Walker Ballin and Wiley Square being placed like within first and third place at the conference. So that's really good. That's such an accomplishment when you consider that it is a competition for international competition, when they're competing with students that have master's and PhD education while they are still working on their bachelor degree.
And so you were at that Bison convention. Tell me a little bit about the uptake of this project with members of the international bison community, as well as kind of what you guys learned and are hoping to put forward with this program.
It was a lot of interaction with industry stakeholders. We could be talking to people that work with bison at the industry, at research settings from North America, from Europe. And the exchange was very positive. We certainly expand our networks and just felt our lungs very full to continue deploying this interesting project.
And so now we have Wiley Square. He came first in the poster competition at the International Bison Convention. And so tell me a little bit, Wiley, about the feeling that you had being able to place first at such a prestigious event?
It's definitely a first time for me. I'd say overall it was very validating getting to know that there is interest and demand for the work that we're doing with non-contact monitoring and handling of bison. There's a lot of interest from industry and from producers. So I guess overall, just very validating to know that there's an interest and there is going to be a demand for the project that we're working on and the research we're doing.
What was your poster about specifically relating to this probe? And so Wiley, what was your poster specifically about relating to this project that you guys are working on?
Portion of the project that I was focusing on was exploring ways that we can use drones and cameras to remotely monitor and survey bison cow-calf herds. Because the problem is with a lot of producers with the bison is handling bison, they require a very hands-off approach. And that can lead to challenges when you're trying to gain information such as which cows have calved and how many cows are out on pasture and even just monitoring them. So using drones, we found that we could remotely monitor and access them without disturbing them and gain that kind of information that could help make valuable management decisions.
And so Wiley, I come from a bit more of a cattle background, and anytime drones have been around cattle, we often find that they get very agitated when they hear the roaring of the drone being nearby. Are bison different, or have you guys found the optimal place that you guys can place the drones away from the bison so that you can monitor them without them getting agitated?
Yeah, so we've actually had a few test flights out at the bison herd, the Lakeland College bison herd. And we were a little concerned at first, not gonna lie, but we started pretty high, 150 meters, and we were actually pleasantly surprised to discover that they didn't mind the drone at all. We could comfortably get within 10, 20 meters. And to them, it wasn't anything more than a dragonfly, really. They didn't mind it one bit, and we didn't alter their behavior at all, which we're very pleased to discover.
And so now we have Walker Ballin. He placed third at the International Bison Convention. And so Walker, tell me what you did specifically with this research project. And also tell me how it felt to be placing third above so many prestigious other professors and workers that have PhDs while you're still working on just getting your bachelor degree.
Jerry said that was a really cool feeling to see the work that we've been putting into this project be right there and competitive with the work that master's students and PhD students are doing. That was just a really good surprise, and you could just tell that the work we're doing did relate to the bison industry. The producers were very keen on coming up and asking questions and asking about what we were doing. My specific poster was about walkover weigh scales in a feedlot scenario for bison production. Bison are a very undomesticated animal compared to cattle, which I come from a cattle background as well. So we're looking at utilizing non-contact sensing technologies to improve efficiency in bison feedlots. A lot of setbacks and stresses come with bison production if you physically handle them or process them. So if we can use walkover weigh scales and different types of cameras to monitor them remotely, we feel as though we can provide something that bison producers will be able to use and increase efficiency and safety in the industry.
And so Walker, when you mentioned that bison don't like to be handled as much as cattle, kind of what are you referring to when you're saying that handling of bison that they just don't really seem to like?
For sure. I guess coming from a cattle background, I think we take it for granted that when a calf gets sick, it's not too hard to just go sort that one off and treat it, run it through the chute, right? Whereas in the bison industry, it's a lot harder to do that because of their undomesticated nature. So actually, when you physically handle them or pull them away from the herd to treat them and vaccinate them or weigh them or whatever you have to do, it actually causes a big setback in their production, and they can go 3 weeks without gaining any weight after that interaction, which costs a lot of efficiency.
Thank you all so much for all of the information on this very intriguing research project, and we hope to hear more from all of you coming down the line when you guys get even deeper into this research project. And so we wish you all the best, and thank you so much.
The Lloydminster Extreme have wrapped up their regular season and are getting set for the playoffs this weekend. I have more on that story. The Lloydminster Extreme wrapped up their regular season back on July 9th, winning their 5th consecutive game after a 10-7 victory against the Lakeland Heat. The club finished second in the Northeast Division of the Rocky Mountain Lacrosse League with a record of 10-4 heading into their first postseason matchup. One player who will be suiting up for the series is Lachlan Jenner, better known as the Generator, according to his teammates. He started off the year playing goalie before switching over to defense.
Transitioning over is kind of weird, but getting used to it is pretty easy. Thought I played pretty good over the season, learned a lot from a lot of our veteran guys out here, so thought overall it's been a good year for me.
Jenner will be tasked with shutting down the Renegades' top players. Forward Jaden Plamondon will look to continue with his offensive touch as he finished the regular season with a league-leading 65 points.
I'd say I just like to slow it down and just give it to the most open guy on our team. Our offense is capable of getting goals and just got to give it to them when they're open.
Despite the Renegades finishing the regular season at the bottom of the division, head coach Graham Murray says the Renegades are a solid team regardless.
They're a team that has a great goaltender, a lot of athletes. You know, they're not a team that's they're not soft by any means. They're going to come here and they're going to play hard. So we better bring our A game just like we did last week against Cold Lake to get us here. So I have no worries about it. I think we're a team that's going to beat them.
The Extreme will play a best-of-3 series against the Red Deer Renegades, with all 3 games taking place right behind me here at the Hillman Redden Arena, with game number 1 set to kick off on Saturday at 6 o'clock and games 2 and 3 on Sunday if necessary. Adil Ahmed, Primetime Local News. And now our Abby St. John will give us an extended look at our weather forecast.
Thanks, Adel. Taking a look at our temperatures, a little bit cooler of a day today compared to yesterday, and the wind was certainly a lot more intense today than it was yesterday, and a little bit more cooler all around. It's 20 degrees here in Lloydminster, so at least we're still in the 20s. That's always a good temperature to have, especially during the summer. But across Alberta, also seeing lower temperatures than we've had been seeing compared to yesterday. 21 in Edmonton and Edson, 20 in Red Deer, 22 in Whitecourt and Jasper, 19 in Athabasca, and 18 out in Cold Lake. And on the Saskatchewan side as well, a little bit more cooler temperatures, 15 in Meadow Lake, 21 in Prince Albert and North Battleford, 23 in Malfour, and 24 out in Saskatoon. And then up more northern, 20 in Uranium City and in Stony Rapids. A little bit more cooler as we are up north, 16 in Wollaston Lake, 14 in La Loche, Buffalo Narrows, and La Ronge, 15 in Flin Flon, and 12 in South End. And then on the Alberta side, same deal, a little bit more cooler than what we've been seeing the past couple days, 21 in Fort Chipewyan, 20 in High Level and Peace River, 23 in Grand Prairie, 19 in Slave Lake, and then 15 out in Fort McMurray. And then down south, they are also a little bit cooler today, 26 Medicine Hat, 21 in Lethbridge, Calgary, and Banff, and 18 out in Coronation. And then on the Saskatchewan side, 22 in Kindersley, Yorkton, and Regina, 23 in Swift Current and Moose Jaw, and 28 out in Estevan. So they're definitely sitting at the warmest for today. And then overnight across the region, we are going to be cooling down a lot more than yesterday, but a lot clearer of skies than we saw yesterday. No real chance of some showers, especially in Unity and in Wainwright. They're sitting very clear for this evening. 9 in Meadow Lake, Wainwright, Unity, and Pierceland, and Paradise Hill. 11 degrees in Isla Crosse, 8 in Bonnyville, Provost, and in Myrnam, with a little bit more heavier cloud coverage in Isla Crosse, Bonnyville, and Myrnam. But for the most part, we're going to have very clear skies tonight if you want to go out and look at the stars, or if you're camping, it's going to be a very, very nice night out to start your weekend off. And then taking a look at the next 7 days, you're starting off with your weekend. Tomorrow is going to be a high of 21 with a mix of sun and clouds, so you'll definitely be able to enjoy the sun throughout the day. And then on Sunday, there are a risk of thunder showers, so definitely keep a watch out for that. Heavier cloud coverage, but it will be a high of 25 with a low of 11. And then to start your week off on Monday, a heavier cloud coverage coming off on Sunday and a high of 20. So a little bit cooler of a day with a low of 13. Tuesday, we get a little bit more sun and a little less cloud with a high of 23. We're definitely starting to warm back up. And then on Wednesday, more sun with a high of 25. And then our sunniest day on Thursday with a high of 28. Wrapping it up on Friday with a mix of sun and cloud with a little bit of rain with a high of 27. That is a look at your 7-day forecast. We'll have more news coming up after the break.
I'm joined here today by Karen with Communities in Bloom. Karen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for allowing us to share about Communities in Bloom in Alberta.
So what's the main goal of the Communities in Bloom program?
Okay, well, when people first think of Communities in Bloom, they often think that Communities in Bloom is about beautification. It's all about flowers. And actually, the main goal of Communities in Bloom is really community development. We want to provide a way or a tool that people in a community can experience a greater quality of life and a greater feeling of satisfaction and a greater sense of pride in their community and get to know others and feel connected. So, Communities in Bloom is one of those tools that allows that to happen in a community. Certainly there are other benefits to that. I mean, it definitely fosters a greater civic pride overall. It also fosters a sense of environmental responsibility, and it does things like it raises real estate prices as well in the communities that are looking really, really good, and lowers crime. So there's a whole bunch of different spin-off benefits, but the primary one, I think the driving force and the reason why we do what we do is for that community development aspect.
Have you kind of seen the effect on communities that this program has?
Yes, you can really see that. And the way you see that is by going into the communities themselves. So I was telling some people recently that I was driving, I had to go to a location in northeastern Alberta, for example, and I was just driving up that way on another piece of business. And I stopped by some of the different small towns along the way. And you can definitely tell which communities are Communities in Bloom and which aren't. The ones with Communities in Bloom, they just have more shine to them, I guess. They have floral displays. The buildings are painted up. They just care so much more about their main street, for example. They just have that extra little edge that the other communities don't. And especially this year and the past few years, we've gone through COVID where municipalities are facing a lot of cuts in their municipal budgets. And even those communities where Communities in Bloom is no longer active, you can still see the residual impact that they've had on the community.
I know some communities around here like Cold Lake and Wainwright are already nominated for this year, but for next year, how do communities go about getting involved?
So our program year starts every January 1st. So January 1st on our website, if communities are interested in getting involved, they can go straight to our Communities in Bloom Alberta website. There's a registration form. They fill it out and decide which category they want to be in and get registered. The next major step for them is to get their local committees operational and get those up and running. So they can set some goals for the spring and decide what kind of projects they want to work on and what they want to show the judges when the judges come to their community. And then throughout the course of the summer is when we do our judging in July and August. And then in September and October, we get those reports back from the judges. We compile them, we assign scores. And then this year on October 1st in Bruderheim, we're having our provincial awards event. And that's where we announce the winners and we invite our sponsor, Fortis Alberta, will be coming out and they'll be helping hand out those awards to the winning communities.
Thanks so much for joining me today, Karen. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Moving forward, that's the theme of the 116th Vermilion Fair that gets underway coming up on Thursday. Thursday morning, there's going to be a pancake breakfast bright and early, and then the huge parade starts at 11 a.m. and that'll really start off the fair in Vermilion. You can visit the Midway. There's so many different shows that are going to happen, including sheep shows, beef shows. There's going to be heavy horses, team roping. They have antique tractor pull and parade on Friday. They've also got modified tractor pulls. The Dirt Rich Band is going to be there. And coming up on Saturday night at the Vermilion Fair, Brad Johnner and the Johnner Boys, and then a huge fireworks display. Admission is $10. Under 6 get in for free. Full details at vermilionag.ca. The nominations for the Canadian Country Music Association Awards just came out, and the James Barker Band has 5 nominations, including a nomination in a huge category. They are up for Entertainer of the Year at this year's CCMA Awards, and you've got a chance to see them live at the Paradise Hills Summer Bash. It's coming up on Saturday, August the 6th, and you can still get tickets for one of the biggest parties of the summer. You can go online to eventbrite.ca, or you can stop by Paradise Hill Ranch and Western Wear, pick up your ticket to see the James Barker Band at the Paradise Hills Summer Bash. And coming up this Sunday night, the Vermilion Folk Club is proud to present Clayton Bellamy live in Vermilion. What a great way to spend your Sunday evening by taking in some great live music featuring Clayton Bellamy. Tickets are $25 each. Well, whatever you choose to do this weekend, we hope you stay safe and stay healthy.
What's Happening is brought to you by Northern Factory Workwear, Circle Drive East, Saskatoon, and Highway 17 South, Lloydminster.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
So first off, Cadence, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. It's an absolute pleasure to get you on at PTLN to share your very inspiring story and to talk about your latest release, Don't, which is so beautiful, by the way, but we're going to get there. But first, you are formerly the lead singer of the country trio Runaway Angel, and you spent a majority of your life chasing and fulfilling your musical dreams. However, back in 2018, you got a surprise leukemia diagnosis that really shook your world and it put a pause on your musical career. But now you're back, you are resilient, you are being called the comeback kid, and rightfully so. And now, before we talk about Don't, I would love for you to share with us more about your inspiring story and how did this life experience shape who you are as a musical artist today, and how do you feel it will shape your music career in the future?
For sure. I mean, obviously cancer is such a shock, and I think it shifts your perspective very quickly, and suddenly you kind of just start seeing what is really important and what doesn't matter. And, you know, my journey through my cancer experience was just so much more different than I anticipated. I ultimately had a life-saving stem cell transplant. But the aftermath of that, the recovery was just, it was wild. And it felt a lot of times to me, you know, like the universe was trying to pull away parts of what I thought my identity was until I was left with nothing. And I really had to kind of start over and figure out, okay, like, who am I? What matters to me? And where do I want to go from here? And what parts of like the old me can I see now weren't serving me? And can I leave those behind? So for me, one of the biggest takeaways of cancer has been just recognizing how many fear-based decisions I make in my life and had made prior to my transplant. And I was just, it kind of made me so disappointed in myself because I could really clearly see how many opportunities and how many great things I missed out on just strictly out of fear. And I kind of was hoping that after my transplant, there would just be like a magic switch and I just wouldn't have fear anymore, but that didn't really happen. So really what I've just kind of done is become more aware of the fear. And whenever I feel like it's there and whenever I can recognize that it's part of my decision-making process, I try to separate it and ask myself, like, if fear wasn't part of this equation, what would you be doing now? So I think it's just made me, I mean, obviously a stronger person, but it's also made me so much more understanding of why I make the decisions I do and how I can make better decisions for myself in the future and not be so motivated by fear.
Wow, that is extremely powerful. Now, music in itself is very powerful and you are a musical artist. So how did your music, your songs, your writing, and how did anybody else's music really help you through this process?
Well, music obviously is just such a healing thing, and I've always had such a huge part of it in my life. So one of the things I did going into my transplant was I made what I called like a day zero playlist, because day zero is like the day that you have your transplant and start your new life. And it was kind of like my countdown, and it was just all my favorite songs, all the songs that I needed to like rock out to and get my strength up and get my courage up and just keep like moving forward. But I think outside of that, I had a hard time going back to music after my transplant. It's such a flight or, fight situation where you're just so uncertain about everything that's happening, and creativity is like the first thing that dies. So I really kind of honestly stayed away from music for a while after my transplant. I didn't even like listen to music or anything. I just separated myself from it, and I let myself feel what my life was like without music, not just without creating, but without like listening to it and without having it as a daily part of my life, until I kind of could move through the trauma and the challenges that I faced in recovery and get to a point where I could embrace music again. And I honestly wasn't sure if I was going to go back to music. I thought maybe I would be called to do something else in my second life, but eventually it just came crawling back and called me right back to keep doing what I was doing.
Well, we are so happy to have you back. So how are you staying creative now?
I'm writing with all kinds of different people and investing in like the stories of everyone. I think it's such a really cool idea that we all have stories, and not everybody gets to tell their stories, and not everybody gets a chance to have that voice. And I'm really trying to write with different people and figure out like, what is your story? How can we tell your story? Because I mean, I've been telling my story for years, and I know people like my music, but I think it would be so cool to bring other people's stories to the forefront. So one of the first things I did was I wrote a song with my parents. I wrote Don't with my parents. And it was just such a cool experience. You spend so long as a writer going to Nashville and writing with these established writers and published writers, thinking like that's what's going to get you hit songs. But I just kind of wanted to move away from that aspect of it and look at who can I write a song with that's different, and what kind of story can they give me.
That is so cool. I love that so much. Now, we do have to talk about your song, Don't Hear. So it is so wonderful to have new music from you, by the way. I love it. Don't. It came out in June, and it's bold. So you said that you wrote it with your parents, and what I got out of it, it's this beautiful song about someone saying, you gotta let me go. I've moved on. You also need to. And I love it. So tell us more about this song.
Yeah, it was definitely inspired by an ex who regularly reaches out, even though it's been about 10 years. And, I didn't originally write the song in any kind of like snarky way, but just I really loved the concept of, me being in like a different place and maybe they're not there. And, it's so easy to be in a relationship and kind of once you're out of it, you want to close that door, but maybe they keep like calling you or whatever, and you keep getting pulled back in. And I wanted Don't to kind of be an anthem to like when you're at that point where like, no, I'm done. Like the door is closed and like, I got someone new, but you don't. And just kind of, yeah, like a sassy little like throw it back in your face.
I bet. Now, I know everyone is going to want to know more about you and get your song Don't. So of course, where can everybody find out more about you and get Don't?
Yeah, you can find out more about me on my website, cadencgrace.com, and you can get Don't on pretty much every streaming platform.
And that's going to wrap up our newscast. Stick around for our 6 o'clock cast coming up next.